Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming this afternoon. I am Tammy Martin. I'm the Executive Director for Friends of the Desert Mountains. I know some of you have heard about us being removed from our offices, so I just want to clear up a few things because it is on the news, it's on the radio stations. And so since our offices are located on federal lands, we were asked to leave our offices for the first time ever during a shutdown. All of our employees are working from home. As a nonprofit, yes, we are still getting paid, but the donations are slowly coming in, so every donation really helps during these times. Any events taking place up at the Visitor Center are currently on hold. So we are not even allowed on the premises up there until the government opens back up. So we are trying our best to have our programs move forward, and they are, as long as they're not on the Visitor Center campus, because we're not even allowed on the campus. So if you're looking for events, programs, when you visit our website, we're trying to keep everything up to date as far as if they've been canceled, if they've been removed. We have a 25th anniversary of the National Monument, an event that was supposed to happen next Thursday. And with the government not being open, as of tomorrow, we probably will be postponing that event. But more details will be coming on that on our website. So if you have any questions, I'll be around. But at this time, I would like to introduce our Deputy Director, Oscar Ortiz.
Right, good afternoon, everybody. How are y'all doing today? Good, all right, thank you for joining us. Let me test this out real quick. All right. So as Tammy mentioned, we're Friends of the Desert Mountains. We're a nonprofit based out of the Coachella Valley here. We've been around for about 38 years. We've helped conserve over 60,000 acres of land throughout the valley. We still manage about 20,000 acres of land, of conserved land. And we also do a lot of environmental education. We do work with schools and community centers, libraries, and so we're very happy to be here with you to talk about one of our recent topics, which is native planting and how we can do native planting in the Coachella Valley. I'll start off with a question for the audience. Can somebody tell me what a native plant is? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Anybody? Plants that have been here for a long time before we got here, right? And so these plants have been here for a long time, have been adapted to our natural environment. And so today we're going to talk about how do we use these plants that have been here for a long time here in our desert? How do we use them in our landscaping to provide different types of benefits? So my second question is, what are the benefits of using native plants in our landscaping? Anybody? Great for pollinators, that's a really good one. Conservation saves us a lot of water, right? Because these plants have adapted for so long, they don't use as much water, definitely. Anything else? Tolerate the climate. We're getting some good heat waves coming this way, and yeah, they definitely can handle those heat waves here. And so the first thing I'll talk about is the sustainability aspect of it. Definitely, they're very drought adapted, and so on average, residents of the Coachella Valley utilize about 70% of their water outdoors. A lot of that's going to grass or other ornamental plants that we might have in our gardens. And the other second part of it is carbon storage. A lot of times when we think about carbon sequestration, right, taking CO2 out of the atmosphere, we think more of forest, right, and large trees. But our desert actually does a really good job of this as well. A lot of our plants, when we look out in the desert, it looks kind of barren sometimes, but you'll see a lot more underground because they have such large roots that have to go searching for that water, right? So a lot of times you'll see a third of the plant up top and 2/3 underground. And so these plants are actually working really hard to clean our air, and they're our natural air filter here for the Coachella Valley. Here we have an example where a creosote vegetation community can capture over 3 times more carbon per area compared to forests nearby. Interesting, right? Economic benefits are also a good thing about native planting because they're so adapted to less water. You don't have to use so much water on your gardens. They also require a lot less maintenance. You don't have to have somebody mowing your lawn twice a month or anything. and they are also don't need any fertilizers or pesticides. I have a yard full of native plants. I've never bought pesticides since I've started my garden. And so that helps us out a lot, not only in our economic benefits, but in keeping our air and water clean for the future. Environmental conservation is also important for us, and so native plants contribute significantly to a more biodiverse and resilient environment. These plants provide all the things that our wildlife need in this area. So they provide the nectar, the pollen, seeds, leaves, stems, all the different things to keep our local wildlife going. And you'll see right there in the middle, that's a desert iguana that's feeding off of a willow, desert willow flower. That's around our campus right there at the visitor center. Visual appeal is also a benefit of native planting. There's all kinds of native plants. Many of you got the native planting guide on your way in. If you haven't got one, we still have some there in the back. And there you'll see all the different options that you have for native plants. There's flowering shade trees. There's large shrubs that you can use for hedges. We even have wildflowers and container plants that you can have. So whatever your need is, we think that we can find a native plant to fit that need in your landscaping. And now I will pass it on to our biologist, Edeli Reyes. Let's give her a round of applause, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. And today I'm going to share some information about some native plants. We're going to be talking about a few trees, some large shrubs, and some smaller perennials. But there is a much larger list of native plants. And at the end, I will also share a list of resources if you are interested in doing a little bit more research yourself, or if none of the plants I talk about today meet your landscaping needs. There are many more options, but today we have a short amount of time. And we'll start off, does anybody recognize the tree in the background? Oh, that's a really good guess. Yeah, it's the desert ironwood. It's not super popular in landscaping yet, but that's why I'm here. We're trying to change that a little bit. And as you can tell, it has really beautiful pink flowers, similar to a desert willow as well, but it's a little bit smaller. And the first tree we have today, actually, before we get started, I have some general landscaping information. So this will apply to all of the plants that I will be talking about today. So in general, native plants don't really need any fertilizers. They are adapted to our soils that have poor nutrients. So they don't really have that much nitrogen or phosphorus, and they're okay with that. As Oscar mentioned, they've adapted, and you can add it to some of them, but for the most part, they don't need it, and sometimes it might cause more harm than good. Another thing is that they need full sun. And what this means is that they need at least 6 hours of direct sun for them to grow their best. Otherwise, they'll start growing very long and narrow and not as bushy. Another thing is that they need fast soil drainage. And this usually means that it's a more sandy texture, which is very common here in the Coachella Valley. We have very sandy soil, and our native plants do very well in that type of soil. And for the watering information that I will be presenting today, that applies specifically for the lower desert region. So that's the Coachella Valley area. If you're coming from a different location, like maybe the high desert up in Joshua Tree, the same species might have a slightly different water need. So just keep that in mind. And up first is the desert willow. Does anyone happen to have a desert willow in their home? Yes? Oh, cool. It's a really beautiful tree. It's really popular in landscaping right now. I've been seeing it a lot in new developments, not just here in the Coachella Valley, but across Southern California. I was visiting LA and I saw it a lot there as well. And it could be because it's a much smaller tree, around 26 feet tall. And it also has very large, showy flowers. And these flowers can come in different colors. They range from a light pink to a more dark burgundy and even a white color. And they're very available in different nurseries, so it shouldn't be super difficult finding a desert willow. These flowers provide nectar for many different species. One of them is the sphinx moth, which is the moth on the right side. They also provide nectar for hummingbirds. You will often see hummingbirds looking for nectar in their flowers. And another one is the monarch butterfly. You will often find those there as well. The desert willow is winter deciduous, so that means that it will drop all of its leaves during the cooler months, coming up in probably December. But other than that, it will have its leaves and it will be blooming in this region year-round, except during the winter. For recommendations for the desert willow, if you do buy a smaller tree, or even a 5-gallon tree, this one is very popular with the rabbits. So I would recommend maybe adding a cage around it until it gets a little bit bigger. It shouldn't take too long, they grow pretty fast, but just to add some protection for the tree while it grows a little bit bigger. That's something we definitely do at the monument. We have a few, and they keep going after the willow and after the mallows. So it's been tough growing them. Any questions about the desert willow? Oh, okay. Up next, we have the blue palo verde. I didn't go over this earlier, but at the very top, I put the scientific name, and then under the scientific name, you will find the English common name, the Spanish common name, and the Cahuilla name as well. And the scientific name is on top because plants have different common names, and so it can get really confusing. So the easiest way to get the correct plant that you're looking for is going off the scientific name. So just to let you know. So this tree is around 26 feet tall, so slightly larger than the desert willow. It's another fast-growing tree, so this means it grows around 2 to 3 feet per year. And then as it reaches maturity, then it starts slowing down. It provides a lot of filtered shade, and this is really good if you have any plants, maybe like a succulent, that might get sunburned. This could add a little bit of protection for those type of plants. It has really pretty yellow flowers, and the flowers benefit many different pollinators, and different birds also use different parts of the tree, like for nesting materials. It does have spines, so do be cautious when you are pruning this tree. And other than that, I think, I forgot to mention, the desert willow is often over-pruned in landscaping. So for this tree and any of our native trees, you would want to avoid tree topping, and that refers to removing the entire canopy, so there's basically no foliage left on the tree. In general, you want to remove 20 to 30% of the foliage, and no more. And if you're doing a heavy pruning of that sort, that would be recommended during the dormant period, which is the cooler months of the year, and that just prevents the tree to stressing too much. And also overwatering. Often in landscapes, many of the native trees are overwatered, and that can cause for the tree to grow more above ground. So it's gonna grow more leaves, more branches, but the roots are not gonna be able, it's not spending a lot of energy and resources sending it towards the roots. And so that means that when there's a lot of wind or very intense wind, the tree might, in that case, break, or sometimes even just completely fall off, as sometimes you might have seen this happening with different trees, not just the blue palo verde, but the mesquites as well. Any questions about the blue palo verde? Yes. Yes, that is right. There is a hybrid. The Desert Museum is a popular cultivar that is also available. It's slightly smaller, I believe, and it looks very similar to the blue palo verde. Oh, Desert Museum. Yes. Yeah, it's a cultivar, so it's a high, it was not a, it was, I think, an accidental hybrid. And so I believe that it first occurred at the Desert Museum in Phoenix, I believe, and that's where it gets that name. Yeah. Yes, it's pretty available in most nurseries, I believe. It's probably even more popular than the blue palo verde because it has no thorns. Yeah, most people do prefer the no thorns. Yeah, you're welcome. Any questions? Okie dokie. We'll proceed with the next tree. And this is a tree we saw in the very beginning, the desert ironwood. This one's a lot larger, 35 feet tall and 30 feet wide. This is a long-lived species. There are individuals that live hundreds of years. There are some specimens that are estimated to be over 800 years. And it is slower growing. It has very hard, dense wood. It starts out growing a little fast, but then it slows down a lot. So if you're looking for a shade tree that's growing a little bit faster, maybe not the best option. But it does have very pretty purple flowers that bloom in the spring. And during this time, it will also drop all of its leaves, and it's just gonna focus all of its energy in the flowers. So it'll just be a tree full of pink flowers. Any questions about the desert ironwood? Generally in late spring. Yeah, and this one's also at the visitor center, so if you want to look at it in person, the specific tree is up at the National Monument on 74. Okie dokie. And now we're going to talk a little bit about planting these trees. So the best time of year to plant is right now. Planting season has already started. You can plant throughout the year, but the reason why it's recommended to plant right now is because right now the plants will need less resources, so they won't need as much water. And since our temperatures are cooling down, that also won't stress them out as much. And this gives them enough time for the roots to start establishing and be ready for when the summer time comes and our temperatures are higher and more extreme. And they will probably be needing more water during that time. So for native plants, a few tips if you are planning to plant some trees or any type of plant this fall would be to, one, take into consideration the mature size of the plant before selecting a space. And also always make sure that the wherever location you have chosen, there is enough sunlight year-round. Another thing to consider is maybe any utilities that go underground. There is a Dig Alert 811, and it's a really good resource. If you're not sure where your utilities are underground, you can contact them, and they'll come out and flag your gas lines and water pipes and anything like that. And something else to consider is things above ground. At my house, there was a tree that was planted before we moved in that is way too tall, and the cables are way too short, the electrical cables. So that tree is just not in the right place, so we'll probably have to end up taking it out. But that's another thing to consider if you have cables going above ground as well. And once you have found the perfect spot for your new plant, the next thing is to dig a hole. And in general, the hole doesn't need to be that much bigger than the root ball. It can be slightly larger. And you can use the same pot that the plant comes in to kind of get an idea of if that's a big enough hole for the root ball. And one really good tip is to also water the hole before you add the plant. And this is also a really good time to also see how fast that soil drains. Usually, if it's sandy, it'll take a few minutes. And if it's more of a clay-type soil that can retain more water, it'll take hours and maybe even days. So, and that's a really good time to just kind of get a feel for the type of texture that the soil has. And you can just use the same soil that you digged out to backfill that area. And down here, we have a basic watering schedule, and this is provided by the Mojave Desert Land Trust. And it's also in the native planting guide in the back. So if you have any questions specifically about that, I will also be over there in the very back after the lecture. But any questions regarding the planting so far? No? Okay. And then for the trees, I have a few tips. If you're hand watering, it's really useful to build a berm around the trees. And as your tree grows, you would also want to extend that berm further out. And this also goes for the irrigation system. So if you have bubblers set up, you would want to move those bubblers further away from the trunk. And probably as the tree grows, you might want to add more around the tree so that it gets enough water to help it establish. And then once established, our native plants won't need too much water. You can add some supplemental water in the summers to have them looking lusher and greener. And for pruning, as I mentioned before, tree topping is not recommended. Selective pruning, so cut off any dead branches or branches that might be in the way or might be diseased or overlapping, anything like that. Okay, and now for large shrubs. Does anyone recognize the plant in the back? Yeah. Yes, thank you for sharing. Yes, it's the creosote, and this one you'll probably find not just here in our desert, but it's dominant across many southwestern deserts, so all the way from the Mojave to the Sonoran and the Chihuahuan deserts. And it is one of our native plants out here. This one could be a really good formal hedge. You can prune it into a formal hedge. Or you can also just leave it as is, and it can make a really great background shrub. It's pretty large, around 12 feet tall. It has evergreen leaves. It also smells really nice. And it has very showy yellow flowers. And after the flowers are pollinated, then it starts growing these white fluffy seed capsules that also added an additional interest to the plant. And it is super important for many pollinators. It provides nectar for hummingbirds, for the monarch butterflies, and there are over a dozen native bees that specialize in collecting pollen from this plant. And what that means is that they won't collect pollen from other plants. So one example is the creosote small mason bee. This bee will collect the pollen, but also use other parts of the plant. It will use the leaves of the plant, and it will also use the resin from the plant to make, for them to make their nest. And these, like many of our native bees, they are solitary, so you don't have to worry about these bees making hives out here. Any questions about the creosote? Okay. We have one in the back if you want to check it out later after the presentation and smell it. It smells really good. Another shrub is the desert lavender. And this one is roughly around the same size, slightly smaller, but the leaves are very different. This one has more silver-like leaves, not as silver as a bridal bush, but more gray. And it also smells really good. It smells like the common name suggests, lavender. And this one can also be pruned into a more formal hedge, as you can see on the image, or you can also let it look more natural. It kind of resembles a Texas Ranger, and it's a really good alternative if you want to add a little bit more diversity. If you have Texas Ranger and you want to add a little bit something different, it has a very similar size. The major difference is that the Texas Ranger does have much larger flowers. The Texas Ranger does do well out here, and it is also good for pollinators. But if you're looking for a more local native, the desert lavender is a really good one that you can add into the mix as well. Any questions about desert lavender? Oh, okay. So now we're going to move on to some smaller shrubs. So if you don't have space for the trees or the shrubs, they're pretty large. There are other smaller plants that would do well in containers as well. Does anyone happen to know the plant in the background? Yes, thank you. Yes, it's the chupa rosa, and chupa rosa translates to hummingbird in Spanish, and that is because hummingbirds are super attracted to their flowers. The red tubular flowers are perfect, like the hummingbird's beak fits perfectly in there, so they have co-evolved together and they definitely look for it all the time. And this is a smaller shrub, around 4 feet is the average, but I have seen it much larger in the wild, but this one would also do well in a container. It has drought deciduous leaves, so if it doesn't get enough water, it will drop those leaves, and it will also drop its leaves when it's flowering. And similar to the desert ironwood, it's just because it's putting all of its resources into the flower. But to avoid the drought deciduous leaves, you can add some supplemental water, and then it could retain those leaves. Many of the desert plants do have that adaptation that if it doesn't have enough water, it'll just try to conserve as much as possible by dropping the leaves. And this one you can also prune into something, a more formal shrub, if that is your style. And it's also a really great alternative for another common ornamental. It has the common name firecracker plant, and that one's native to a more tropical location. So out here, it needs a lot more water for it to be looking as good as it does in its native habitat. And the hummingbirds love both the firecracker plant and the chupa rosa. But if you're trying to be a little bit more sustainable and save a little bit of water, the chupa rosa doesn't need as much. And then another shrub that also does well in containers, and it's pretty popular. It has a pretty wide range. So it's found here in our local region, but also further up as you go north, and it's going to be the brittle bush. This one has yellow sunflower-like flowers, and for this one you can deadhead, and that will promote more blooms. But if you choose to leave the spent flowers, there are many different birds that will feed on those seeds, and there are also insects like the harvester ants that will also carry those seeds away. Any questions about the chupa rosa or the brittle bush? Gotcha. Okie dokie. So up next, we have the milkweeds. So the milkweeds are a host plant for a very popular insect, probably the most charismatic insect out there. Does anybody want to guess what insect that is? Yeah, oh, cool, thank you. Everybody, yeah, the message is spreading. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, the monarch butterfly, the adult monarch butterfly will find a milkweed plant and lay their eggs on it. And then the caterpillars, once they hatch, they will feed on the milkweed plant. And so that's why the milkweeds are super important. And another milkweed is a host to another insect, and that is the oleander aphid. It's this really common pest in a lot of milkweeds in general. So there are different ways that you can treat or that you can get rid of this pest. One, you can opt and leave it. It's totally up to you. It does not harm it, so that's an option. The other option is to pick them off, and that would take way too much time. They are so small, and they can, it would take way too much time. Some people like to use the pressure from their water hose to just flick them off. In that case, you might also you might also flick off the monarch eggs as well, because they're on the same plant. Also, you can leave it for the ladybugs. The ladybugs are a natural predator of the aphids. There are, I believe, other beetles as well that will consume the aphids. The ladybugs will also eat the eggs of the monarch's butterflies. It's really tough. But the main thing is that we just in general don't recommend any type of pesticide, because the pesticide will kill the aphids, but it will also kill every other insect that's on the plant, including the monarch butterflies. And up here I have a resource, UC Master Gardener. There is a local Riverside County program, and if you have any plant-related question or garden-related question, they are a really good resource. They have a website and a phone number, and I believe they also have an email, which I believe I have on another slide later on. And so one of the milkweeds that that is super common out here and we'll probably find in many nurseries is rush milkweed. This one is around 4 feet tall and 4 feet wide, and it will also grow very well in containers. And you will often not see any leaves on it. It does have very narrow ephemeral leaves. Usually they drop them, or the monarchs will eat those leaves. And it is also the tarantula hawk is another species that's a really effective pollinator that you will often see on these milkweeds. And they do look intimidating, but unless you're a tarantula, you really don't have to worry. They're not really going after us, but that is something to keep in mind. I know some people have planted milkweed and then removed them because the tarantula hawks were getting way too close to them, and they were not comfortable with that. So that's something to keep in mind. Any questions about milkweeds in general or anything else? Okay, we're gonna go on. And up next, we have the desert globe mallow. And this is also a smaller perennial that has very showy flowers. The flowers might come in different colors. Usually it's some shade of orange. It could be like a more light, pale, or even more bright like the one on the image. But it also comes in pink, lavender, even a white color. And there's also a cultivar available in a more reddish color. And this one is also super popular with rabbits and gophers. So this one I definitely recommend to cage. I've lost a few to them. It's pretty easy to maintain. If you want, as the plant starts dying back, or if parts of the plant start dying back, you can just easily trim those. And that actually also goes for the rush milkweed. Any dead stems, you can just cut at the base, or sometimes the flowers actually get very heavy and the stem might kind of like go to the side. And if that's in the way, you can also trim that at the base. And same thing for the desert globe mallow. And one of the pollinators it sustains is the globe mallow bee. And this little bee is also a solitary bee. And it will also nest underground, and they build these little chimneys at the entrance of their little nest underground. So they're kind of cute. Up next, we have the golden or the silver cholla. And there are actually so many different cacti that are native to this area. I've just chosen this one. And there are so many chollas in general that are also native to this area. But this one grows up to 10 feet tall, and it has more stems and branches. It does have pretty long spines, but it would make a really great accent plant. And it also creates habitats for birds like the cactus wren. The wren typically will make its nest not just in chollas, but other cacti as well, and even other shrubs or trees that have thorns in them, and that's to add some protection for their nest. And the cactus wren is not listed or anything like that, but their populations are decreasing, and that is due to habitat loss. So this is like a way that we can help out these birds that are looking for a place to make their nest and increase their populations. And up next for grasses, one of our native grasses is the deer grass. This is a warm seasonal bunch grass. It's very effective for ground cover. It could also be used as a decorative grass, so it's a really good option to plant instead of fountain grass, which is an invasive species. And this particular species is also very adaptable to different soil types, so if you have more of a soil type texture, this one could do well, and it also can tolerate some shade as well. Any questions about deer grass? There are many other grasses that are native to the area, like big galleta, that are also available in different nurseries. I just chose one example today. So, yes. Oh, sorry. Can you repeat the question one more time? That's a really good question. Yeah, this picture is specifically from the one up at the monument, and that one does have irrigation. So in the wild, I believe this one is usually found in a more riparian area, so it would need more water. But there are some like big galleta that are found in the lower, in the valley floor, and that one probably would do better with less water. Yes. Yeah, I think it might be on the native planting guide, if I am not wrong. I cannot find it, but in the back, I have the scientific name if you are interested. Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions about grasses? Okie dokie. And there are more ground covers available. There's also buckwheat. There are cultivars of the California buckwheat that are low grower to the ground and spread out more. So there are different options. I believe there's also Artemisia californica that comes in a cultivar that's also much lower to the ground and can be used as a ground cover. So yeah, there are many options available. Another option for gardens are the wildflowers, and these are really good because one, seeds are usually way less expensive than a live plant, and because they grow so fast, because they have a pretty short-lived lifespan, they are also really good at temporarily filling a space really quickly. So if you're waiting for your larger plants to grow to a more mature size, or if it's a new garden that you're starting up and want to fill up quickly, it's a really good option. And this is a really short list of our native wildflowers. There are many others. Hopefully soon, since we've had some rain, I'm expecting to see San Verbena covering the valley floor. And that's really exciting. And San Verbena is Umbronia villosa. But there are many other wildflowers available as well. And sometimes they might just volunteer in your gardens. I believe all of these pictures either come from my garden or from my parents' garden. And you can see there's a variety. They don't all have the most showy flowers, but for identification purposes, iNaturalist is a really good tool. If you're not sure if it's a wildflower or a weed, you can upload a few pictures, and someone on iNaturalist will help you identify that species. And then we talked a lot about native species. I just wanted to kind of briefly go over some common invasive species. And these are species that we recommend removing because invasive species can have negative impacts on our ecosystems. They can reduce the biodiversity of the ecosystem. They can alter ecosystem processes like fountain grass. We've seen it spread throughout our mountains, and that once it dries out, it adds fire fuel. And so our deserts are not super adapted to fire, and so that's one of the ways that they alter these ecosystem processes. So one of them is the common Mediterranean grass. I often definitely see this one in my garden. Fountain grass, this one you might have been seeing on the mountain sides, driving on the 111, or the Saharan mustard. This one's everywhere. And stinknet, this one, I haven't seen in my own garden, but I've seen it in my parents' garden. And it's also commonly found along the wash. And I think that's just because with water moving through there, it's easier to spread. And yeah, so if you happen to have any of these plants in your garden pop up, we just recommend for you to remove them. And this is the list of resources I mentioned earlier. Cowscape is a really good resource. It has a list of many more native plants, and it has a lot of information about landscaping in general. If you're interested in birds, Audubon Society also has a native plant database. So if you're trying to build a habitat for a specific bird, they will give you a list of plants that will support that bird species. And then we have our local California Native Plant Society chapter. And there are many other resources, which is really exciting, with that a lot of different organizations are working on native plants. And again, more resources. California Invasive Plant Council, if you want to learn a little bit more about invasive plants. There is Nifty Natives by Desert Water Agency, and that's a list of native plant gardens here in the Coachella Valley that you can visit for free for more inspiration. And UC Master Gardeners, I've added their emails up here too, just in case you have any question related to pruning, to past. And for that, UCANR is also a really good resource. And they don't do just native plants. They do all types. So if you have fruit trees or anything like that, they also have information on that. And up next, we have some native plant sales here locally. So the Living Desert already had their annual native plant sale last weekend, but don't worry, there are a few others happening this fall. So Mojave Desert Land Trust will have their native plant sale, and CMPS, along with the Horticultural Society, will have a whole desert garden day, and there will also be a plant sale taking place on that day as well. And so most of these happen every year. So even if you miss the Living Desert native plant sale, it'll be back again next year around this time of year. So I believe that's at their office in 29 Palms. Yeah. And in the guides, you will also find a local nurseries that sell native plants. There is only one update on that list, and that's Bob Williams Nursery is now the Madison Gardens. I believe it has a new owner, and the name is different now. But yeah, this list you will be able to find on the native planting guide, which you can get in the back on the resource table. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you. Yeah. I'll be in. I'll take some questions right now, and then I'll also be in the back as well. Yes. Oh, yes. I think I had an image of one earlier. So this, oh, right there. So this smoke tree is available in some nurseries. I believe Desert Straw House and Mojave Desert Land Trust both have them available now. They weren't super common or available, but they have these really beautiful purple flowers in the summertime. So you might have seen them driving through some areas of Palm Desert or along the washes if you've been hiking around maybe off the top of my head, Randall Henderson has some smoke trees on it, but they're throughout the entire Coachella Valley, and they're a really beautiful tree. The common name comes from their appearance that looks like a plume of smoke from far away. Oh, that's a really good question. They don't get super big, probably smaller than a desert willow, so maybe under 20 feet. Yeah. Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, there are some landscapers that are certified in working with native plants. CMPS might have a database on that, but if not, you can also try and contract a certified arborist, or usually landscapers that are certified will let you know, and you can always ask them directly. Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's a really good one. The bladder pot. It's a medium-sized shrub. It has yellow-purple flowers. I believe that one might be in the guide. Let me. Oh, thank you for sharing. I didn't know that. Oh, so I thought it was in the guide. It is not in the guide. I'm sorry about that. But it has really beautiful yellow flowers, and it has these light green leaves. Really great option for a smaller shrub as well. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, thank you, and I'll be in the back.